He's like, "You're not dancing, you're praying." I was like, "You see that?"
Okay, so if you're one of those people who thinks that clubbing is a religion, then by extension, the club is the place of worship, the music is the hymn, the DJ takes on the role of the priest or the sermon giver or whatever that's called. But what about the go-go dancer? Where do they fit into this clunky, overused metaphor that I'm spinning right now? Well, according to former go-go dancer and current author and porn actor Manuel Skye, the role of the go-go dancer is more than just eye candy. They are the facilitators of connection on the dance floor. At least that's what it was like for Manuel when he was a go-go dancer at Parking, a legendary Montreal nightclub that unfortunately became parking. It became a car park after it was shut down in the noughties. But before that, it was a place where Manuel got to be himself, got to socialize, got to make out with a man or two on the dance floor. And it was where he got to go-go dance. It was where he got to facilitate this healing, this connection, this magic underneath the disco ball. Now, before we get into it, Manuel has just released a book which is called 7 Skies Under, The Complete Spiritual Journey. And this book offers modernized spiritual teachings to guide readers in mastering their lives, unlocking psychic powers, and raising their vibrations through healing. I'm not really sure what that means, but I'm pretty sure it's good. So, if this sounds like something that you would be interested in, I'll make sure to include more details in the show notes for this episode. My name is Kay Anderson. This is Lost Spaces, the podcast which is all about lost queer spaces and the memories that they left behind. Shall we get into it?
Montreal because I wanted to study architecture at the university, and I preferred the program here at the University of Montreal versus Quebec City. And I wanted to have a taste of all the beautiful men from different backgrounds that there is here, because it's very multicultural, and it was not enough in Quebec City. Because, you know, after a year, I had fucked the guys I wanted to fuck already. And there was no more.
So exactly how many men what was that?
Not much. That's the thing. Not much. And as soon as I came here, it was like, oh, Italy. I visited Saudi Arabia, and then Egypt, and then Greece, and I loved it. I loved it so much.
Around the world in 80 nights.
Yes, in my bedroom.
And so, what are your first memories of Montreal? Like, you're an 18-year-old, you've shown up.
For me, it was like a kind of liberty, you know. It was like this kind of freedom of like, I could do anything I want. And it was in the 90s, so it was way different than now. You know, we didn't have any social media or smartphones or anything. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we had to call our friends through the landline, and oftentimes we would gather at someone's place and then just go to the clubs right after. But like, I was working part-time. I was studying full-time. So my only getaway was to go to the clubs with my friends, like at least 3 times a week, but oftentimes like 5 times a week.
Oh, but that doesn't answer my question. What did you make of this city? What are your first memories of Montreal?
My first memories was just like a state of being, of like discovering everything, and like everything is really chilled and laid back. You could just do anything. No one is judging you and stuff. But also, you know, my parents taught me that not to care about anyone's opinion. But I feel that like in Montreal, no one cared anyway.
And so you were running towards Montreal for the men's. Were you running away from anything?
Oh no, I had a beautiful, beautiful childhood with my parents were so loving. You know, they're like my best friends even still today. So no, because like even at 17, I could bring boys at home to fuck. You know, that's in the 90s again. Let's say. You know, so I didn't have anything to run away
Oh,
from.
but like, you, oh.
Yeah, you know, imagine like you're 17 years old, you're in a club, you meet this beautiful man, and you're like, oh, we both live at our parents' place. And they're like, well, we can go and fuck at my parents' place. It's fine. They let me fuck in my bedroom. You know, it's like, because I started, honestly, to do it in the parking lots and cars and stuff. And when my parents found out that, you know, they was like, oh, you know what? We'll feel safer if you're just at home. So just
What
bring the
did?
boys at home.
How did they find out?
Well, it's because like my fuck friends would come and pick me up, you know, in their car, and they assumed it. They're not dumb, you know. So they were like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure he's gonna go and have like a little ride in the car," and you know.
But why didn't you do what every teenager does and lie?
No, we didn't have to lie to my parents. We were very, very open. Our relationship has
What?
always
So
been
you
like
weren't like,
this.
oh, I just went out to get ice cream. Like, why?
No, they know because like I would call them sometimes from the nightclub, you know, hearing the loud music in the back, you know, like, oh, I'm not gonna come back home tonight, or like I'm gonna come late, you know, because I had to call them every night still, like.
Ah. I mean, I'm sure I did it as well, so I'm not sure why I'm being so like puritanical and asking these questions. But like, what was it like when you had someone stay over and then they met your parents in the morning?
It was just more awkward for the boy himself, but my parents are so like, easy that no one was really uncomfortable.
Did they ever say what their impressions were of the boys? Did they say like, "Oh, don't see him again. He's a bit weird."
No, not really. Didn't get involved into it.
Oh, they're not like my parents at all then.
You know, only if like if I would see them more like or bring them like officially to them, then my mom would definitely tell me her opinion. They always thought that they raised us in a way that we smart enough to make good decisions that's not gonna harm us, you know.
And were they right about that?
Mostly. No, but every time there was someone toxic, my mom, you know, like that, you know, I wouldn't see that they're toxic right away, but like my mom would be like, I don't like him right away after one time meeting them, you know. And you know, months
Ah,
after she was right.
yeah, yeah. But in the immediate aftermath, were you more inclined to be like, well, I don't care, I like him, I'm going to stick with him? Or would you trust your mum's word?
Oh, after a while, I started to trust my mom right away.
Ah,
It's a
okay.
family of psychics. Okay, there's psychics everywhere, so you're like, okay.
Oh, but is that not a good way to manipulate people? Like, oh, I had a vision, so you shouldn't do this.
Well, you have to know who's a liar and who's not, right?
So Montreal, you get there when you're 18, you sample the men every night, a new one. What was the clubbing scene in the city like in the 90s?
It was the best time because, you know, again, it's before the apps, it's before the drugs. So, like in a Montreal village here, the gay village, it was like literally tons of tiny little clubs. You had the big, big ones and the tiny little ones with different, like, kind of underground music if you wanted to. So, and there was no entering fee to most of those clubs. So, you just go pop into one club after the other.
Yeah.
So, you know, in one night you could do 20 clubs if you liked. And, you know, we were drunk. We had so much fun. There was no judgment, nothing. There was no body shaming. Half of the people were shirtless. But we just didn't care. We just didn't care about like you're just free. You just dance here to dance. And at the end of the night, everyone has sweat. Our hair is like
Oh,
all over
yeah.
the place. Our faces are red and swollen. You know, it's like because we've danced. There was no cell phone, so we didn't care how we look at the end. We just want to have fun, and no one was on the phone. We were just there to dance and flirt on the dance floor, of course.
Of course, of course. What other reason?
Yeah, so that was those were the years, you know. But that's why I don't club anymore because I've done it so much, and I don't get drunk anymore. I can't handle it. I've given enough.
And it's because you've done it too much, not because you're old and you're, sorry, older and your interests have changed.
My interests have changed, and the music, has changed, and the people are just on there with their cell phone, which is boring to me. So it's like the whole culture of clubbing is not the same anymore.
But so, other than the phones, what do you think has changed?
It reversed a little bit. So because parking was Montreal's favorite club for everyone, but this was the best club because like it was really the place where we felt the most free. You could kiss the number of boys you wanted at night.
Ooh, and what number of boys is that for you?
Well, those were my years where I was a little more quiet, so it would be like maybe two or three.
Oh, okay. Well, and so you've got sluttier as you've gotten older.
Definitely.
Oh, me too.
I'm not slutty, more myself.
So sluttier.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing though, isn't it? Because like when you're like, I mean, my experience at least when I was in my 20s and stuff, I was this very like, oh yes, I'm going to be well behaved. I'm going to not do things. I'm going to be chaste. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, why am I doing this for? Who gives a shit?
Exactly. Don't have time to waste. What is it? When I started in the clubs, if you find a boy super cute, you ask the barman to give you a pen and you take a box of match and write your phone number.
Yeah.
And then you just exchange phone number like this. And then the next day he calls you. And then 2 days later he comes to fuck. And then I was like, honey, just because you wait one day to have sex with him doesn't make you less of a slut.
And you've got all these little pieces of paper around your house with phone numbers for guys you can't remember. What's the point in that?
Exactly. So, after a year of that, I was like, just your place or mine. That was like, seal the deal right away.
Oh, so it only took you a year to get over that then?
Well, it's because I didn't know that, but even though I was skinny and I was attracted to like much more muscular, more mature man, little did I know, I didn't know I had a big dick. So, that's how I got all of them. I was not aware until I have a big enough sample.
Oh. So it wasn't that someone had pointed out to you that you had a big dick. It was that you were comparing yourself to everyone else.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and I was like, how can I get all these beautiful muscular men in my bedroom all the time? What is with that? Of course, there's the vibe and thing. And after a while, though, I was like, oh, they like the big dick. I didn't know I had a big dick. It was just my
But how
dick.
did they know that you had a big dick?
Oh, because the bulge, and I was wearing pants like skin, honey. It's like it was like all smashed to the side with barely any room.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
Wait, how did we get on to talking about your big dick?
How to get the men in your bedroom.
How to get the men in your bedroom. I think we were going before that. Oh, we were talking about the difference between clubbing back in the day and clubbing now.
Oh, yeah, true. So the example of parking, which was everyone's favorite. So you walk in there and you're just free. Again, you're free to kiss whoever you want. You're free. There was no body shaming. Every body type, everyone was shirtless in that club. It was so hot. Everyone would get so sweaty. So it didn't matter. Like the bears were shirtless. The twinks were shirtless. The muscle guys were shirtless. And we all just mix. Mm-hmm. And after parking closed, like they tried to open another club with the same owners and stuff. And for some reason, the vibe had shifted completely. And this is when Grindr started to be more popular. And so everyone started to be more on their phones. And then it shifted completely. It reversed. So like, I remember one night taking off my shirt because it was so hot. And some guys looked at me like, you're a slut. And I was like, what? Like a year ago, like everyone embraced it and stuff, and now like they shame me for being shirtless. I mean, like I know that these same guys who shame you for being a slut are gonna send you bare ass photos ass spread open at 3 o'clock in the morning on Grindr. And I was like, what is this reality? And if you flirt with them in the club, they look at you like, oh no. But then again, at 3 o'clock in the morning, spread ass open in photo. I'm like, so the thing is like we lost the sense of communication in real life because we're
Yeah.
comfortable behind the persona that we created. But interactions with real human, they harm those connections right now. It's really sad.
And that is like a genuine experience that you've had where the very same people that have scorned you or shamed you or acted aloof towards you in a club are then hitting you up on Grindr and being
Yeah,
like, hey, why don't you put something in here?
exactly.
Oh, how strange.
It's the reality now. It's the reality now.
And
Yeah.
in your experience, like, is anyone talking to you or is everyone just sticking to their own groups in those spaces?
Nowadays?
Yeah.
No, well, the club scene has always been very cliquey. I mean, more in the last years, because back in the days we would go with a group of friends, but like we would mix, everyone would mix. Now I feel it's like really really cliquey, and the people that talk to me that I don't know in the club are mostly just fans that they want a photo with me or just, oh, thank you, I love your work so much. And the thing I hear the most is, you made me come so many times.
Oh, gosh. How do you respond to that?
You just embrace it. It's like, thank you. You laugh and you take a photo and you go on, move on. What
Oh,
else? One of my best friends, the first time he heard that, he was in Puerto Vallarta and he rolled on the floor laughing. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that to you. I'm like, this is the most common thing I hear. You made me come so much.
wow. I mean, it's quite a nice thing to say, right?
Yeah, it's a compliment. It's just like unexpected.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you've said that other people are aloof and not wanting to talk to you in a club unless they are a fan and they make it weird immediately. But do you approach people and talk to them in clubs?
My approach in the clubs has always been like, if I find someone pretty, and it's the same if they find me pretty as well, like there's this kind of chemical reaction or just the way we look at each other. I mean, like if I'm flirting with you, you will know with my body language. And this is how I always got the men in my bed back in the days before Grindr. You're just on the dance floor looking at each other, and there's like a dance that's happening. You get closer and closer, and more look, and it gets more and more intense. So that was the way, and that's like I always say to people like, because some people will think I'm flirting with them just because of the way I look at them. I get this a lot, but I'm like, this is just the way I look at people. But if I'm flirting with you, you will know. Even if I'm not using any words, you will know I'm flirting with you. It's going to
Well,
be very
how?
clear.
How?
It's that energy,
No, that's why I'm asking.
I think of it like Marilyn Monroe when she flirts on camera. There's that.
So is it like intensive eye contact?
Yeah, but it's like you only have all these facial expressions. The eyes, they cannot lie. I can tell a million things with my eyes without saying anything. I think like from the UK perspective, it's a more strange things because you guys don't show as much emotion as we do here. But it's true. It's true. It's so fucking true. But French Canada and any Latin country as well were very very expressive. So think like Mamacita. Those Spanish moms, if you do something wrong, she will look at you and stare, and you'll feel sorry before she said anything. It's that same kind of thing with flirt.
But then is that not really scary for the other person that you're flirting with?
No, because it's done in a very cute way that they're gonna feel like, they give you the feedback right away. If they don't, you stop.
Ah, okay. Well, so my original question was, do you talk to people in clubs? And everything that you've just described to me doesn't seem to involve talking.
Exactly. So no.
Do you? So no. Okay.
And I can't hear shit in a club anyway. I don't care to talk to people because that music is so loud and I hate to block one ear. And I'm like, what did you say? That's me in a club. I'm like, I'm not here for that.
Oh, okay. So it's just making out immediately. Otherwise, you're not interested.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Straight to business.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to establish whether or not there's sexual chemistry, because otherwise you could waste half an hour chatting, right?
Yeah, and it's like, and I'm not interested,
What, you're not interested in
because I don't
anyone?
like the small talk. I hate it for real.
Well, you don't have to have small talk. You could launch right into a deep conversation about politics or.
Which I try to do. No, I usually read their poems. That's my go-to.
Oh, because then you get to touch them.
I read their soul, so they start to trust me right away, and then they open up, and so that's one of my approaches. But if the music is too loud, I
Well, have
can
you
be.
ever read anyone's palm and been like, oh God, I've got to stay away from you?
Uh, yeah, not really. I don't need the palms to do that.
But like, could you ever see something on someone's palm that is a bad sign?
No, not really, because we all have our qualities and talents, but we all have our challenges. So it depends how they cope with their challenges.
Which you wouldn't be able to tell by reading their palm. I know
Oh yeah,
nothing about palm
absolutely. Oh
reading.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You see all of that. But usually, if their coping mechanism with their challenges is you see that they need to work on it, then they usually get into tears. So it's not like the best way to have sex right after anyway. So
Wait, you read their palm and then you make them cry.
a lot of the times, yeah.
What do you say?
Because I unlock some parts of themselves that they don't share with other people, and they have a big time facing by themselves sometimes. So when that happens, or if I trigger like all these like insecurities, like I can see through it, and this has happened mostly if the right and the left palm are different, because then who they are inside is different from what they share to the world. So especially for those people, because I can see through it, then they really like feel a bit shy at first, but they like, no one else knows this about me, but I'm like, they can't hide it from me. So that's when usually there's that kind of work being done.
Wait, so hang on. So you've told me that this is a way you pick up people in the club by reading their palms, but you've also told me that when you read their palms and make them cry, then you don't want to sleep with them. So should you be doing this?
It depends on my mood, really.
Ah,
It
interesting.
depends on my mood. There's one guy, exactly that situation. I told him the work he had to do on a soul level, and he backfired at me right away that one time. I was like, "Ooh, you need this. You need this." Yeah,
Oh,
so I was like, "We're not gonna fuck."
so you're never tempted to be like, oh, I see fucking in your future.
Oh, that's their joke.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Do you see me fucking you in the very future or something? Yeah.
Okay.
Good lord.
So we've talked about how clubbing has changed and how it's just a trash fire at the moment. Why don't we go back to the 90s? Why don't we go back to Parking Nightclub and talk a bit more about that? First of all, I want to ask you, if you remember, what was the first time that you ever went there?
Oh, the very first time. I remember going downstairs because there was different parts of it, right? The downstairs was the discovery because they had like a kinky kind of room and it looked like a back alley kind of thing. And I was like, ooh, okay. Because it was so different from all the other clubs where everything, the aesthetic was more like, okay, this is a cute place to party and stuff. Where the other one, you could feel the underground vibe of like, oh, people here, if they want to, they can get in the corner and have sex and no one will give a shit. And I was kind of intrigued and fascinated, but a bit not scared, but I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this myself. And, it didn't take a long time, but I was like, oh, yeah, but I don't need a dark room at all. If I want to wank a guy, I did once. I wanked a guy straight in the middle of the dance floor.
Oh, you didn't leave anything that people could slip on, did you?
It was all in his pants.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's okay then.
Yeah. My favorite part of it was the years where I was go-go dancing. So I was go-go dancing there every every Saturday night for 2 years on those cubes. And I had a blast doing that.
How long were your shifts?
It was 3 shifts of like 15, 20 minutes. The goal was just for us to set the vibe and elevate the crowd, and make them party. And, the guy who hired me, that's why, I asked him by the end, I was like, why do you always pick me to, like, I didn't have any contract, but I was like, why do you pick me every single weekend to dance on the podium? He was like, you see what you do. I see what you do. He's like, you put the vibe in, you bring the vibe of the crowd up.
Aww.
Because one day, one guy came to me and asked me, he didn't ask me something. He's like, you're not dancing, you're praying. I was like, you see that? Because the dance is a form of like movement. You listen to the music, and the music guides your every move. And this is how you bring the energy into the crowd. So that's what I was doing.
Okay, I have follow-up questions, but let's go back to the beginning of this
Yeah.
little bit. So how did you get that job as a go-go dancer?
I was dancing there with my friends every single weekend. There was a beautiful go-go dancer that was there. And I looked at him, and every time he would go down the podium, I would be the first one on the podium. Because I love a stage because you have all the space, you're free. Because I don't like to be
Yeah.
too crowded like this. I don't care to
Yeah.
dance on the dance floor. And I was like, hey, since I'm here and I love the podium, and I just could get paid for this and do it. So he was like, oh, come with me. So he brought me to the guy who hired the go-go dancers, and he's like, yeah, you can do it next week. Boom. And for 2 years.
Oh, so you didn't audition or anything?
Oh no, because he saw me on those cubes every night, like dancing my ass off already. He knew it.
Oh, well, okay. And so I'm not sure actually if I've got a good measure of whether or not you would be nervous or not in this situation for your first time. So I'm going to ask the question.
No, because was I nervous? No.
No, so you were just like, yeah, I'm here, going to do the go-go dancing.
Yeah, because I would always go with my boyfriend at the time and a bunch of friends,
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing is that I had to come earlier than everybody, but I knew that like within half an hour, all my friends would be there. And they were happy because they were all on a guest list from now on.
And you just embraced it and you just took to it like naturally. You were just like, yeah, I'm getting on the go-go box and I'm going to dance for the next 15 minutes and I'm going to bring this crowd's energy up.
Yeah, and even like years after at a party in my house here, like there was so many people, but one guy looked at me, he's like, oh, I remember you. You're that go-go dancer from parking. I'm like, yeah. And he was like, I had a name for your dance. I was like, a name for my dance? It was like, yeah. It was like 1, 2, 3, pose, slow motion. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. That was my signature.
Wait, what?
It's like 1, 2, 3, pose, slow motion. That's how I was dancing. So, pa, 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 stop and move slow, I was like, yes, that was me. So me.
Okay, and so how then is that praying?
It's like a prayer where like Madonna's popping. No, it's because of the intention you put into it. It's a kind of a healing intention. And connecting with the people and the crowd, connecting with the other go-go dancers. So the truth behind a prayer is just setting an intention for things to happen, and you send that intention with the energy, and that dancing can do the same if you set the intention, like anything spiritual in life. It's just a matter of awareness and intention. So that's why. So if you dance with intention, other people who uses that in their life, they can sense it. They're very aware.
But and so you're saying that you were doing that consciously then? So
Yes.
It wasn't...
Yeah, the same, when you start a yoga class, you rub the hands, you do this. When you do healing, you heal with the hands. So, because there's the heart chakra here, it's connected to the satellite chakras in the hands. So, the healing energy.
Oh, and if you're listening to this, he's pointing to the middle of his chest when he says here.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, if you want to heal someone, you send the energy of love starting from the heart chakra through the palm of the hands. So this is how we heal people with the holistic kind of healing. But when you dance, you can use the exact same. So any motion with your hands can become like a hand mudra. Or if you go to the church, the priests always do this, the same thing, like putting his hands up your forehead and that kind of stuff. It's all different hand mudras, which are seal of energy. So that's what it is. So dancing is the same form if you conscious about it only. Yeah, things to think about.
It is something to think about. And so it would be about other people's healing rather than your own healing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm the facilitator of it. I know it sounds a bit like a witch in a in a coven, like or like in one of those nights, but it's not. It's just humans are made this way. Like if you go sit in a meditation class, you can do the same, but you can do the same with dance. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I guess my relationship with dance and the way that I experience it and think about it, when I'm engaging in it, it's about me processing and me releasing rather than.
Well, yeah, if I'm on the dance floor, it's like this. But if I'm on the podium, then that's different because I'm on the job. I'm making people connect with themselves. But it's like the yoga teacher as well. So if you want people to connect with themselves, you have to connect within yourself first. It starts within your own body, and then, people can mimic that. It's like airdrop, basically. If I'm anchored and centered and I move the energy, then the person next to me can actually do it the same.
Yes, I need to think about this.
You wouldn't think
Yeah.
we would go so deep with the clubbing, but it is that.
Well, yeah, because I wouldn't. But also, if I was a go-go dancer, I'd probably be thinking more about showing off my butt than sharing my energy with everyone.
Yeah, you see, but that's the part I didn't care for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't care for it. Like, I'm not an exhibitionist. I know I do porn as a living, but I'm not an exhibition. Sorry. I'm not an exhibitionist per se because I don't care that people are watching me. That's very different. I'm just there to enjoy myself. If people are watching and enjoying it, fabulous, but I don't care. Just to show myself. It's different.
But then, so taking that argument and talking about porn, couldn't you just be having sex with people not on camera?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like, my favorite part of sex is without being filmed, but because I still have like my very sacred space in my bedroom. That's my favorite moment. But if people are filming me for my work, I just don't care about it. It takes years to build that up to be comfortable enough for people to watch or be there in your most intimate moment. But it's the same, really, because I really don't care if they're watching me at this point.
Or do you still think it's intimate if you're performing?
Yeah, it is intimate because I recreate that space, that sacred space. I allow myself that with my partner. But, it takes a lot of work, inner work to be able to achieve that because it's very disruptive, especially in the beginning. That's why it looks robotic at times for, especially if
Yeah.
you're new.
Okay, so let's move away from porn. Let's go back to parking. And I want you to think about that space. I want you to think about why it was important to you. What do you think parking taught you about yourself?
The best thing is really that part where, like, I could just be myself. Well, that my parents taught me that, but to really embody it more and more. Yeah. To just be myself and let go. And, I was comfortable for the first time with my almost naked body because, usually in the clubs I would dance shirtless, but with pants on. Now I was just in my underwear. So it really got me comfortable to be surrounded with other people, being the only one almost naked. So I think it really prepared me very well for like a career in modeling and acting, definitely. Yeah.
Now, can you cast your mind back to the 18-year-old Manuel who showed up in Montreal and was like, yeah, I might be here to study, but also I'm here to see lots of men and to cast my net wider. If you had an opportunity to have a conversation with him and give him words of advice, what would you say?
Well, especially because those were the years before Grinder, I would tell him to go harder at it, like to be less shy to approach people. Yeah. And not to wait before you fuck them. Just go for it. Just go for it. Yeah. Because I was like, it took me a few years to be more comfortable, you know, and I was like, just go for it. Because later in life, you're going to be like fucking nonstop anyway. So why don't you start right now?
Wait. I love this. Normally, when I ask this question to people, they give like advice like, don't be so scared to embrace life and to be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, don't hate yourself. And your advice is basically go fuck more people.
Yes. Yeah, because I was always kind to myself. My parents, again, they gave me this education where I didn't feel a lack of anything.
Other than dick.
When I came of age, yes.
All right, that is us for another week. I will bid you adieu here. Oh, actually, before I let you go, a few things to mention. If you loved hearing about Manuel's story and you want to keep following him and find out more, then you should follow him on Instagram at Manuel Skye Journey. And a quick reminder that his book, 7 Skies Under, is available now, and the link and all the details are in the show notes for this episode. If you also want to keep track of me and want to know what's going on with the podcast, then follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Lost Spaces Pod. I'll also make sure, if you're particularly interested in Montreal Lost Spaces, that I include some links to other episodes in the show notes for this episode. Right. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Just thank you. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you next week. My name is Kay Anderson. This is Lost Spaces. Cheerio.